Boker Tov Rabotai. We're here on this beautiful, where are we? Thursday morning. We're on Thursday morning and we are being recorded. That was a Kohen you guys just heard. We want to thank the Kohen that at such a late hour we all came upstairs and all of our dear guests today. Bechavod. And we are today going to learn an interesting case that came up. And Rabbi Zilberstein brings this up. This is from a book called, what is this called? Ve'arev na. Yes, ve'arev na means sweeten please for us. We say this every day in the morning. Ve'arev na Hashem Elokeinu divrei Toratecha. Sweeten for us, please, the words of your Torah. Befinu in our mouths, etc. In our mouths, in the mouths of our children, the mouths of all Israel, etc. So this prayer is a very, very powerful prayer. Ve'arev na. And a person has to make sure to have kavanah when he says this. Some guys have no cheshek in learning Torah. They have no drive. Why? They don't have enough kavanah. So, it's in the Birkot Torah. Then we say, etc. Right? So over there you should have kavanah. That what Hashem sweeten for us the words of your Torah. Because again, you're not. Some people think when I learn Torah, I'm not allowed to enjoy it. Why? Because if I enjoy it, I'm not learning it for Torah. No, you have to enjoy it. The whole point of Torah is to enjoy it, is to be gishmak, to be a yid. What do you mean? You hear good svara, you hear good pshat, you hear good halacha, you hear good hidush. Wow, how happy you get. Unbelievable. So we are today in Parashat Ki Tavo Rabutai. There are many removal of blessings in this week's parasha. That means many curses in this week's parasha. To be exact, there are 98 curses, yes? 98 curses in this week's parasha. The question is, why so many curses? What, Hashem doesn't like us? What's going on over here? Right? The answer is not that Hashem doesn't like us. It's Hashem is showing to us that when a Jew isn't connected to what he's supposed to be connected to, when a Jew isn't connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, by default, you're not plugged in. Imagine you have a toaster. Yes, it's supposed to make you hot bagels. If it's not plugged in, it could be the most expensive toaster. It's not plugged in, it's done. There's no blessing that comes from it. So too, a person has to know you have to be plugged in, Yosef. You have to be plugged into HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You have to be plugged into spirituality. You have to be plugged into something good. Right? When a person is spiritual, he's uplifted, he has to know the Shekhinah rests on him. When the Shekhinah rests on him, he's blessed. He has beracha. Everything he touches turns into gold. However, when a person doesn't have HaKadosh Baruch Hu with him, the Shekhinah doesn't rest with him, you have to know it's only problems. And that's what the Torah is teaching us this week, that Chas v'Shalom, a person who has curses, who has problems, it's because he doesn't have Hashem with him. He has to plug himself in, back to Torah, back to Yirat Shamayim, back to Teshuvah. Right? When you do that, you bring Hashem back. He rests onto you again.
If he's trying.
Good. If he's trying, he's good. Amen. If he's trying, that's very good. But there's definitions in trying, right? Some guys say baby steps. Yeah, that's, what does that mean, baby steps? You gotta move, you gotta push. Misirut Nefesh is the name of the game. But of course, it has to be healthy also. Some guys, they try to take steps that are, 6 feet apart. It's impossible to take such a step. You know what I mean? So the point is, we have to come back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and thereby we will remove from us all of the Chas v'Shalom, the kelalot, especially before the end of the new year. We say Tichle Shana v'Kileloteha, that the year shall end, and Chas v'Shalom, all of its curses should stay behind, right? And Tahel Shana v'Birchoteha, that the new year should begin, and all of its blessings should come with it. Be'ezrat Hashem. Okay, so Rabutai, we are today gonna learn about a certain there's a pasuk in this week's parasha that says Um'at te'esof ki yahselenu ha'arbe. You will gather a little produce. Why? Because the arbe, the locust, yahselenu, it will consume your produce. You're not going to have so much produce. You're going to have a hardship in parnasah if you don't behave. So to this, Rabbi Zilberstein brings a question down. There was a factory owner who forgot to activate his burglar alarm one night. And the great misfortune is that a burglary occurred in his factory that very night. Now, when I said this to the guys in the morning, they're like, Rabbi, this was for sure an inside job. I said, what are you talking about? They're like, what do you mean? The night he forgot to turn on the alarm, that night he got hit, he got robbed. This is for sure an inside job. This is whatever it was. But let's see the psak of Rabbi Zilberstein. Look at this.
It could be like a person coming into your car.
The factory has insurance against theft, but the insurance policy clearly states that the payment was subject on the condition that what your alarm is going to be on and functioning. That's the condition, right? Now, when the police arrived on the scene, They saw that it was such a clean job, such a professional job. They said you had an alarm, you didn't have an alarm, you would get robbed anyway. It doesn't matter, you had an alarm, you didn't have it, you would get robbed anyway. Now this guy comes and he's trying to demand payment from the insurance company. He's telling them, listen, the police is clearly saying I had an alarm, I didn't have an alarm, it doesn't matter, I was still going to get robbed. It doesn't matter, right? Pay out, but you pay me what you owe me. That's what he's saying to the insurance company. Insurance company says back to him, Habibi, we had a condition, you need your alarms on, and therefore you didn't have your alarms on, we're not going to pay you. Who's right?
The insurance company.
Conditions has to be met.
Insurance company? Let's learn the Gemara together. There's a Gemara in Baba Metzia. Now, the Gemara says as follows. It's on page Kufhei. The Gemara says if a farmer rents a field, he rents a field. Back then, they would go and they would rent fields from the owner of the field. They would plant over there whatever they wanted to plant. They would make money and pay rent. Said it. Good. The farmer rents a field on the condition that he will pay the owner, let's say $5,000 a month in rent, regardless of his profits. And the produce from that year is destroyed by a hurricane or a swarm of locusts. He makes a deal with him. I'm going to pay you $5,000 every month. I'm going to plant every month, and regardless of how much it makes. And what happens is a hurricane hits the land and all the produce is destroyed. Says the halacha, says the Gemara, that if everyone's field was damaged, it's not just his, everyone's field was damaged, then all of them pay a reduced rent. They don't pay full rent. Like during COVID, some people were paying reduced rent, some people weren't paying rent at all, but you pay a reduced rent. That's the rule in the Gemara, right? That if everyone's field, it was unforeseeable damage to everyone's field, yes, then say, listen, well, how am I going to pay you full rent? I pay a reduced rent. That's what the Gemara says. However, if it affected only his field, imagine a hurricane hit just his field, everyone else's field, boy, everything is good, and this guy's field got damaged, right? This is the Gemara that he has to pay a full rent. Why? It's his mazal. It's your mazal. Nobody else got damaged. You got damaged. The flood came and whatever damaged your produce. That's your mazal, and therefore you got to pay full rent. However, if the owner made a stipulation, he says, look, you're going to pay me $5,000 in rent, but I want you to plant wheat. You're going to plant wheat onto my property. You're not going to plant anything else. The guy says, okay, right? He plants not wheat. This guy, he planted barley. He went against the condition. Now a hurricane came and destroyed all the plants in all of the city. This guy gets up and says, listen, if I planted wheat, if I planted barley, if I planted whatever I planted would have gotten destroyed. It doesn't matter what I planted. I want to pay you a reduced rent. And the owner says, no, listen, our condition is you were going to plant wheat. You didn't plant wheat. You planted barley. I don't care that everyone's produce got destroyed. You owe me full rent. Who's right? No?
Policy.
What?
Person.
No landlord.
The owner.
Landlord. What do you say?
Actually, I think the guy.
No matter what he planted, it would have gotten destroyed. Doesn't matter. You must be a landlord, Yosef. I'm sure of it. But still, so now, says the Gemara, the owner claims like this: if you planted wheat and you listened to me, then I would have had the Pasuk in Iyov fulfilled. The Pasuk in Iyov says, what you request from Hashem shall be upheld. The owner prayed to Hashem, Hashem, please may the wheat not get destroyed on this guy's crop. May he pay me my full rent. That's what he's praying for, right? And in the end, he ended up planting barley. He says, I was praying for wheat and you have barley over here. That's why we didn't get saved. Who's right in this case? Logic is with the owner's claim. Had you planted wheat, I might have merited the fulfillment of the Pasuk in Iyov. Now the commentaries all want to know, how is it possible for the Bedin to claim the owner with his, to credit him with his claim, to say you're right, that if you would have prayed for wheat, and it was wheat, you might have gotten answered? He says, how do you know? Maybe his prayer wouldn't get answered. We cannot force someone to pay based on a questionable premise. And still the Gemara says the owner is right, the landlord is right. The question is why? You hear the question?
Why?
The Maharit answers this question by explaining that whenever a contract is signed and one of the parties veers from the agreement, he goes off the agreement, he has the lower hand in any dispute that takes place thereon after. You moved away from contract, you're on the lower side. In this case, the farmer veered from the agreement and didn't plant wheat. Therefore, we must respect the owner's claim that his prayer might have been answered to save the harvest, and you veered from the agreement, and you gotta pay full damage. Rabbis, now back to our question with insurance. Says Rabbi Zilberstein, that's so too with the insurance company. They made a condition with you, your alarm system has to be on. Your system wasn't on. You veered from the condition. You veer from condition, you don't get a payout. Now the guys in the morning said, listen, It was an inside job probably anyway, so the rabbi gave a very, very good psak that he shouldn't get a payout from the insurance company. I heard of a man in the Syrian community, I forgot his name. He had a store. What's the famous clothing store called? I forgot. TJ Maxx? Century 21? Century 21. Yeah. They had a major, I don't know what, flood, fire, something happened over there. They got damaged for a lot of merchandise. Yeah. Insurance wrote them out a check. Insurance wrote them out a check for $2 million over. Or they wrote them one check and then another check. I forgot what happened over there. And still stayed when the owner of the store finds out. His son says, "Abba, we have great news. They gave us an extra $2 million." His father says, "That's not our money. We're giving it back." I'm talking about you. They made a mistake. It's their problem. No, it's not our money. He gave it back. The guy. Can you imagine what a kiddush Shem Shamayim? What a kiddush Hashem. He understood that what's yours you're gonna get. What's not yours you don't play with. Now like this, Rabutai, we have one more question to deal with. There's a question as follows. There was a secular contractor who used to build homes for people. He used to build homes. Why not? You build somebody a home. You manage a bunch of, I don't know what, people, employees. I don't want to say where they're from. Sometimes they have hands, they grow like this. They can't. Whatever. It's a difficult job. You got to manage them. So he manages them 6 days a week. On the 7th day he's off. Shabbat v'inafash. What does he do on his day off? He builds his own house. He builds his own house with his own two hands practically. Every Shabbat he would build a little more and a little more and a little more. All the carpentry, everything. He put the sheetrock and he did the... Shabbat was his day to build his house. Jew! After a few years he finally finishes building his house. He goes to a lecture. The rabbi was mahziroto b'tshuva and he finds out a halacha. That when you do a melacha on Shabbat, you're not allowed to benefit from the melacha on Shabbat. So what do you do with his house? What can you do? Now, the Shulchan Aruch says that if a person deliberately on purpose cooks food on Shabbat, in Siman Shin Yud Hayt, Maran writes, if you cook food on Shabbat, you're never allowed to eat this food. Asur. But other people could eat it after Shabbat, as long as you didn't cook it for them. Right? La harim mutar la hara Shabbat. They're allowed to eat it. So too, if you did any other melacha on Shabbat, you're never allowed to benefit from that melacha, ever. You're never allowed to benefit from that melacha. The Mishnah Berurah writes that although you're not allowed to benefit from that melacha, you can sell whatever it is that you cook to a goy. You can sell it to him. That's what.
But then you're benefiting from the money though.
Oh! He may sell it not just to a goy, to someone else. Kafah Chaim says, one second. We're not supposed to benefit from Shabbat, right? You had a piece of fish. How much is a piece of fish? I don't know, half a pound, let's say it's $12.99 a pound, whatever it is. You had a nice piece of salmon, bronzino, whatever it is you eat. Yeah? What's more expensive, cooked fish or uncooked fish?
Cooked.
Uncooked is more expensive than cooked? When you go to the restaurant, he charges you more for cooked fish or uncooked fish? Of course for cooked fish.
You've been to a sushi place lately? They go crazy.
But tempura is always more expensive. Now like this, says the Kaf HaChaim, I don't understand something. You had this uncooked piece of fish, let's say it cost $10, right? Now you cooked it, now you're going to get 20 for it. Why could you sell it? Says the Kaf HaChaim, you can only sell it at base price. Now if you ask the Kaf HaChaim, what about his house? What do? He will tell you can only sell it for the amount of the base materials. The plumbing, the electrical, the 12-2 wires, the 2x4s, all the other, I don't know what, the sheetrock, and all the other intricate details that went into your house, all the tapestries and everything, all the base expenses according to the Kaf HaChaim you can charge. Now 1 second. The Gemara in Gittin says that a person who plants a seed on Shabbat, you plant a seed on Shabbat. How long does it take for that seed to be kolet? A few days, right? Nonetheless, the Gemara, meaning that's a chilul Shabbat, you're not allowed to plant on Shabbat. The Gemara says that you, after Shabbat, must uproot those seeds. You must uproot them. Right? You must uproot them. Says Rabbi Zilbishn, I don't understand. What is the difference between the food that was cooked on Shabbat and the case that the Gemara says that nobody can benefit from the plant? Right? I cooked the fish, I was able to benefit, I could sell it. Right? Plant, I have to uproot. What's going on? What's the difference? So the Biur Halacha, the Mishnah Berurah explains. He says there must be a clear and visible penalty for Shabbat desecration. Cooked food could have been eaten on Shabbat, but as a penalty we said you cannot eat it on Shabbat. You cannot give it to another Jew on Shabbat. You have to wait till after Shabbat. You saw a clear penalty, right? So that was the penalty. Whereas when you planted something on Shabbat, there is no visible penalty, and therefore you have to uproot it after Shabbat to show the penalty that takes place, that I'm not benefiting from Hilulei Shabbat. The Tosfot Yom Tov explains that the penalty is not to destroy the object for which Shabbat was desecrated, but to reverse the act of the desecration. Okay. If a sapling is planted on Shabbat, it can be uprooted and then replanted. That's a reversal of the, of the melacha that took place, thereby reversing the forbidden act. The process of cooking, on the other hand, there's no way you can reverse it. And therefore, the sages didn't say to destroy that food after Shabbat. You don't have to destroy it, you can give it to someone else. The Mishnah Rishonah explains that the penalty is to foil the plans of the person who desecrated Shabbat. If a person cooked food in order to eat it, it is enough for us to tell him, you're not going to eat it. We destroy his plants, you're not going to eat it. If a person planted in order to let the plant continue to grow, then the only way to reverse his plans is to do what? Is to uproot that plant. The Stipler of Chaim Kanievsky's father was a giant, by the way. He explains that what's planted must be uprooted, since even after Shabbat it continues to grow, thus furthering the forbidden melacha that began on Shabbat. Yafeh. The issue of what is to do with a house that is built on Shabbat depends on which of the answers is correct. According to the Mishnah Rishonah, who explains that the penalty is to undo the plans, it would seem that the entire house must be destroyed. Ouch. The contractor's intention was that the house should continue to exist for years to come. Therefore, the only way to foil his plan is to destroy the house. According to the Tosfot Yom Tov, the house may be left in place, since it is impossible to reverse the process. It's impossible. Tosfot Yom Tov says, once it's cooked, what are you going to do? Destroy it? You don't have to destroy it. What you can undo, you should undo. House that's built, what are you going to do? Break it down. According to the Tosfot Yom Tov, it's good to go. Conclusion: Rabbi Zilberstein compared the case to the case of the Mishnah Berurah's cooked food. Therefore, he permitted the contractor to sell his house, but forbade him to live there himself. He furthermore relied on the Mishnah Berurah's, can you sell it at full value? Rabbi Zilberstein went lenient. He went lenient, he said you could sell it at the full value. Ouch! You could sell it at the full value, so that the contractor may sell its house at the full, not just the price of the construction materials. However, Rabbi Zilberstein noted that his conclusion requires further consideration because it's not so pashut. So, Rabutai, we see Shabbat was given to us as a Yom Menucha, a day of rest. But rest is not rest like people think. Rest is rest from melacha. Rest is rest from doing forbidden labors, right? Shabbat was given as a day with a family, sing some songs. Ki yeshmera Shabbat. Person who utilizes Shabbat appropriately comes home prepared. Before you walk in the house, gotta be prepared. Okay, how am I going to get my kids to partake in the Shabbat Seudah? How am I going to get them to participate? Maybe I'll get them some gummy bears. Maybe I'll bribe them. Maybe I'll give them Coca-Cola. Somehow I need to get them involved to say Devar Torah, to sing a Shirei Shabbat, to get them involved. Some parents come home, Bet Shoreh, father sits, the kids sit, everyone's grumpy. They eat, everyone goes on the couch. It's Shabbos! Sing a song! Nah, I'm not in the mood. Yeah. So the father has to be smart. Tell him, if you sing a song now, I'll let you drive the car. You don't speak about cars on Shabbat, but I'll make it worth your while. He tells him, and thereby the child will be inspired to upkeep the Shabbat, to be involved. You have to know that the involvement of our children is the most important thing in Rabotai. It's tremendous. And in the zechut of the Shemirat HaShabbat, Hashem will bless us with all that is good. Baruch Hanoi Le'olam. Amen. Amen.